hang on.
No, I don't know the figures there, but residential there, anybody with a large block of land there, which could be a farm if you got that $7,000 number, is paying residential rate. So I didn't get no benefit of that 25% reduction in my taxes. I paid 100%, plus I got the hit of another 30 there last year, times 4 years, so 120% my farm. So now with this new round, I'm going to get another hit, 100. And if Harry's sitting with a block of forest land, he's getting hit. So it's not just the farmers getting hit, it's anybody with a large block of land there is going to get hit as well. So that's the trouble. You can't keep moving it from residential to farm to residential. You got to watch what you do there. 25% is all right for the farmer, but what about the middle class, the residential? Or you want to put it all in them? We're getting hit and I can't get no reduction, or anybody with residential can't get a hit. No reduction on that 130%?
I'd just like to make one more point on my own behalf. 5 years ago, or well, it's about 6 or 7 years ago now, MPAC came in and reassessed all vacant lands and waterfront. And any of you that want to know what happened, ask. My piece of vacant land, a bush lot, went from $200 to $600. So I believe that's 300% or 200%, is it not?
Oh,
It's simply market value assessment. If people are willing to buy bush lots and build houses on them and live on them, then the value of them goes up and you pay more taxes on them. Taxes have two purposes. One is to get revenue. The other one is to aim people in a certain direction. And the reason that agricultural land is only taxed at 25%, and as everyone that's on council knows, I tried to get it reduced to 20 and didn't succeed. But the reason that farm property is taxed at 25% is to encourage people to farm land and not just squat on it. That's why it's there. If you want to pay 25% on your land, get some farmer to farm it, he'll sign the paper, and then you'll be paying 25%. Right? Right.
yeah. Okay, I have sort of two questions here. The first one here is, so when we went to council to ask for the reduction in tax base, they said no, we couldn't afford it out of the tax budget, that we had so much money we're strapped. And then they turned around and added $1,000 to Massey Marathon. I don't see the point in that. I could, if any of the current councillors could, give justification for that expense, I would appreciate it. And
so why support the Massey Marathon, or what?
why wouldn't they consider supporting farmers or local industry versus giving money to the current Massey Marathon?
We used to give $2,000 to the Massey Marathon. Now we want to give $1,000. That money goes not only to the marathon. That marathon brings in, it fills all the motels, it fills the restaurants. It is an economic development endeavor for the community for that whole weekend. The gas stations sell gas, and we have a donation budget, and that money comes out of that donation budget. It's part of economic development and keeping things rolling in the town. It's a big draw for the community, for the marathon, and that's why we do it.
Okay,
Okay?
I'd like to answer that question.
The amount that we pay for the arena more than covers what they give us. So it's like there's no loss in that.
Okay, I have another person answer the question, Jeff.
I'm not sure I didn't hear all what you said, Robert. But the bill for the arena usage was $920 this year.
Robert answered exactly.
Yeah, well, I couldn't hear because he was way back there. But we pay it back to the municipality, and as Pat said, this marathon has been going on for over 40 years, and over those 40-some years, we have brought a lot of money into this community, not just Massey, there's Webwood, Walford, all the motels are booked solid. The park up the road is booked. This is not just a free money, as if you wanted to call it this. It's an investment in our community.
I appreciate the answer, I'm satisfied with it. I just for a point of reference, so we're here year round, that's one weekend. So.
That one weekend brings in a lot of dollars to the area.
Okay, that's fine, okay. My second point here, I just want to get across is that the farm rate has increased 30% year over year over year, and the mill rate's staying the same, so therefore our percentage of tax base goes up further and further and further. The question is to lower it to match the increase with residential.
The farm rate or the farm assessment?
Sorry, Gary?
Farm rate or farm assessment?
The farm assessment has gone up 30%.
And you only get an increase in assessment if your land is appreciated in value.
I understand that. But what we're asking is to adjust the mill rate so that our tax base increases equivalently with residential increases. Does that not seem fair to anybody on the council? Feel free, whoever wants to answer.
Well, if the residential rate, if the residential assessments go up, then their rates will go up as well. I don't understand, like, you want us to treat farmers as a separate freestanding entity. You only pay 25 cents on the dollar now. I mean, how much further can we go? Zero?
I'm not going to argue with you, Harry, I'm just looking for an answer, thank you.
Keep in mind, this is Dad's question, we couldn't remember.
Go ahead.
Anybody feel free to answer?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of stuff there, I can print it out for you.
But if we're going to just pick on the last 4 years, let's go back 8, 10 years, when the gosh darn shoreline there got the hit of 100, 200% there. They didn't come to council and cry there that their taxes are too high. Well, listen, you got to be fair across the whole system, and that's what we're trying to do. You got to treat everybody the same.
I have a question. I have a question that would address this. So I want my council, I as a ratepayer want my council to think of all of the taxes in the entire township as a big pie. And if taxes overall gets bigger, the whole pie gets bigger. The pie is sliced into slices. A certain slice is commercial, it's a large slice. A really big slice is residential. Quite a sizable slice is agricultural. There are other slices, including forested land and industrial. There's lots of different slices to this pie. The difficulty is that the farmer's slice of this pie went from, and I'm astounded that my councillors can't answer what percentage of the taxes have been coming from farm. 9% of your taxes used to come from the farm base, and now it's heading for 16% and beyond. You guys ought to know that. How can you justify putting extra taxes on one of your ratepayer groups? If that had happened to commercial or residential, there would have been hell to pay. If the shoreline owners didn't raise hell, that's only because their percentage of the pie was tiny, and it became slightly bigger. You guys should know that, and you should be willing to respond to it.
I've been dealing with this for a long time, Pete.
Then you should know those percentages, and you should be able to adjust those rates so that farmers are treated fairly. And there isn't a farmer in this municipality who's going to cry poor.
Okay,
But
so
farmers want fairness.
I just want to say, we went through that question, we've answered it. And I'm going to move on to another one, okay? Because I really want to try to, it's more than, I don't just want to dominate here all the time. If there's time, we can come back.
Just one answer, please, from David Wolf. I'd like to hear
Okay.
And I think that I answered that the mill rates need to be looked at and make sure that everyone is paying their fair share. Giant increases shouldn't happen just because the market suddenly really shoots up for the agricultural land. That's not your fault, and it's going to price you out of your farm, and you know what, then we lose another business, a farming business. We need to have balance. We need to have balance for economic development for a weekend. We need to have balance for economic development for the core industry of our area, and one of them is farming. So yes, for sure, I would suggest we would look at all the mill rates and make sure everyone, those pieces of the pie, remain fair for everyone. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Yep.
Any other questions?
One up front here. Right here over here.
This is just a quick question. Why did the council eliminate the general public from sitting on council committees?
Anybody in particular want to ask?
No, anybody?
I'm not on.
Do you want to answer?
This is the first term of office that I think that we have had committees of the whole. It was decided at the beginning of the term that it was something that we would try and see how well it worked. In the past, we've had committees, some of them really benefit from having ratepayers on them. Other committees, the ratepayers didn't seem to have much input into them unless we were lucky enough to have somebody that had a particular background or experience in the area. So we thought we'd try it this year. It's not to say that we're going to continue with that. That'll be reviewed again in the beginning of the new term, and we'll see what happens.
All meetings are recorded there ahead of time. Anybody can go into any public meeting, whether it's economic development or roads or library there or the arena there. You can go to the meeting there, but there to you can voice your opinion there. But to sit on the board, it's council of the whole, and that's when we come to spending money there. We're up to I don't know how many million we spent on roads there. We think there that it should be the council of the whole. If we're spending taxpayers' money, we should be spending it wisely there, and not with an agenda of an individual or two individuals or 3 or 10. Or should be council to have the direction where we want to go. But if anybody's available, wants to come to any meeting, can come. Yes.
The date is posted.
The date is posted.
On the website.
Okay, I have another question.
Hi, it's Steve Barker. I just have a question, actually it's a two-part question. One for individuals that are currently on council, and then another for individuals that are wanting to be. So for the individuals that are currently on council, my question is, as the governing body for the township, how do you ensure that those that are hired to manage our township are doing their work according to how the direction of the council would like them to do it? The second question is for those individuals that are wanting to be on council, if you're tasked with making a decision that you know maybe have very limited knowledge about, maybe one word to, or one option to say how you gain that knowledge in order to make an informed decision on the item that you might have limited knowledge.
Okay, so the first question is...
First question is how those individuals that are currently on council,
Yeah.
how do they see their role in managing those individuals that are employed by the township?
So what's the relationship of council with respect to the managers of the department?
And how do they make sure that those things are being carried out?
Here's a man, a few words.
Well, the clerk keeps a close eye on that. We, as councilors, we really only have one employee, that's the clerk. Everybody else reports to the clerk. We're not really supposed to interfere too much with these hands as individuals, but we do. And let's be honest. I try to keep in contact with these people as much as I can. And I'm sure most of the other councils do.
I'd like to make a statement as a newbie coming in on the first part of this term. I learned a lot of things, and one of the things I learned, especially in the career that I have, that it's very important to have performance reviews of all people, including department heads and staff. When I came to council, that was not the case. So council worked together to devise a plan to begin evaluation performances, because I feel that it's very, very important to make sure that people are accountable and transparent and remain with integrity. So that is a part of our process at this time.
There's twice through this last term that we have done evaluations on the department heads of the township, and 3 of us were on that committee, and we had a format that we went over, and we had an interview with the department head, and then we had also our input into the format of our questioning format. And then we had, after we had our evaluation meeting to ourselves, then we called the department head back in, and we said, we had an evaluation meeting with them. This is what we see might be improved, this is what you're doing really well, and we've done that a couple of times now through this last term.
Wish we were in closed session. We're talking about individuals, employees here, and I don't like to dirty any laundry outside of the gosh darn municipal office here. Council gives direction to the clerk, and that's the way the rules are supposed to be all in Ontario here. And the clerk gives direction to the goddamn manager of every department. If council's having a concern with that department, we go back to Kim. That is the way the system is supposed to work. But the trouble is there, sometimes the manager is not fulfilling the wishes of all council there, maybe it's only doing 50% of what council, and that's where the trouble starts to go. And then it should be coming back to council, say, by the way, that individual's not given 100% here, here's where he's lagging down there, and then you go back after Kim there, and then that's when you get into the performance of the individual, whether it be, gosh darn, somebody cutting the grass or whatever there. That's the only way you can do it. Council's got to give direction. You shouldn't get in micromanaging, gosh darn, staff there and employees there, and that is up to the clerk, and the clerk is supposed to give the directions to the manager, and the manager and the clerk are supposed to be sitting down with the individual there, say, by the way, cut the gosh darn grass right there or else. And that's the end of the problem. But if you start getting into this, all this he said, she said there, then you're causing more trouble with your employees there, the morale goes down there, and that's 90% of your problem when it all happens.
Okay, I'm going to agree with Charlie and let's go. You shouldn't, it's not up to council to interfere with the manager or Kim, like that, but at the same time, you got to be a little bit reasonable. Like Kim can't have a list on her desk of every pothole and every washout and every crack in the township. So normally if one of us councilors sees that, we'll go to the proper person and say, hey, we might look at this step down your own or whatever. But we try, at least we should be trying, to stay out of the day-to-day management of the department unless we see a problem. And then we will refer that, we will go to Kim and the department head and we'll talk to them.
Yes, that I agree with Harry and Les and Charlie on that. We only do have one employee, that is Kim. Kim has her employees, which are her managers, and below that they have their employees. We cannot legally or ethically go to one of the managers and say, I want you to go and take care of this, I want you to go do this. Because if we send them out on the job and something happens, we are legally liable for the problems that occurred on that job. And we have jumped the system to do that. So we have to maintain that hierarchy, and our role is a governance role. It's not to manage a department or manage an area. We leave that one to Kim, and that's the way it has to be done.
Okay, I'm just going to repeat what some of the other ladies said about the performance reviews. I sat on that committee and we did a lot of work to prepare the performance reviews for the department managers, and certainly that was the opportunity for us to, talk about their strengths, things that they need to work on, and make sure that they know that they're a valuable member of our business. So, that's certainly what we're doing, and I believe that should be an ongoing thing.
Okay, and the second part of the question was, you want to know people who...
So those individuals that are wanting to run for council now, if they were able to have one single source of getting the knowledge that they need to make an informed decision on an item that they don't have a lot of knowledge about, what would it be?
What would be the source they would go to?
Well, naturally, they call me. That's not true at all.
From my understanding, it's like some of the other councils have already stated, that Kim Sloss is in charge of getting information and getting it to council to make their decisions on the department heads and their actions. I do firmly believe there should be a report monthly by department to the council as to what is going on, and so they're more up to date on what's going on within the township itself by the employees. That's all I have to say. Yeah.
I think dealing with neighboring municipalities that are going through the same issues or have already perhaps gone over these speed bumps would be the way to possibly get material or information we need. And that way there we know them as neighbors, and if we're on stream with the rest of the townships on the North Shore, we're already aware of who's doing what and who's started, so maybe we can follow by their example and use some of their references that they've already taken on.
How about an analogy? In post-grad education, taking from a single source is called plagiarism. Looking at multiple sources is called research. So research is my one word.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. We don't even just have to look at the towns that are around us. We got an internet. We can pick anybody's mind anywhere in the world. We got to use it. And of course, the town employees, the people who are performing the jobs at the present time, are going to be our first go-to.
Don't want that question?
Okay, Steve, the question you asked, that was on council member for 3 terms previously. I'm familiar with the situations. But the only thing is, I found here to go to this and that some of the councillors are not getting out and doing field work. They're sitting in that chair for 3 meetings a month and they don't want to move. But they got to get out and see what's going on. We can't make a decision in this big township like sitting in the chair.
I have to agree with Dale. I think it's a good idea. Neighboring townships, they have a lot of knowledge, especially when you're new. Like I was, I still pick the brain of the CAO from West. I mean, the rules are a little different in Alberta, but not a whole lot. So it's always good to have someone that has previous knowledge, especially if you're a newbie. You always have to go with those that have that experience.
Okay, so I agree also with checking with neighboring municipalities in the area who may be faced with a similar issue, similar topic, or have dealt with it in the past. It would depend on the topic, for me, what the source would be. If it was something administrative, I may contact some of my former colleagues at the town of Huntsville. If it's, you know, the discussion about the farm tax rate, I was sitting here thinking, okay, tomorrow I work, so when could I call John tomorrow night, or can I call him when I'm off a couple of days later? It would depend on the topic to determine what source I would use.